everyone. Thank you again for coming. Just to briefly introduce myself, my name's Fasai Pongpitaksopon. As you can tell, I'm originally from Thailand, but I'm based at Google Singapore, where I've been for the past 4.5 years, currently as a strategic partner manager for AdMob, or our apps monetization solutions. And today, what I really want to share with you is what an exciting time it is for the world of mobile apps, the phenomenal growth, and the opportunities there. So let's get started. Some fun facts I want to share with you, that to date, there are more phones than there are people globally now. And this has been since 2014. To date, 7.4 billion mobile connections or mobile connected devices compared to a world population of 7 billion. And what's exciting about this is that nearly all of this growth, nearly 90% of the growth, is actually coming from smartphones. Now let's zoom in to see what that means for us here in APAC as a region. By 2019, we expect to have 1.4 billion smartphones, which is more than all of the users in other regions combined, compared to the 1 billion to date. And in the next 2 years, India will also overtake the US in terms of the number of smartphone users, so that it will come second behind China. And developers know this, right? Of the 20 million developers we see worldwide, about half are mobile developers. And in APAC, there's a huge gap between the number of, or a larger gap between the number of mobile developers versus web developers, a 30% gap as compared to other regions. Just to give you a more visual effect, of the 10 million mobile developers, almost half sit in APAC, right? This is where the next billion users are, and this is where your opportunities are. What does that mean for the number of apps? What we've seen is in the last year, the growth of mobile apps has grown at about 1 million apps across all the stores. And today there are about 3 million apps across the different stores. So competition is growing, right? A key question that I get from a lot of my partners, a lot of developers, is that, well, if there's more apps out there, how do I get my app seen? How do I get my app installed, right? Does it really work? And what I want to share today is that with the abundance of apps, with the growth of apps, that also drives more downloads, okay? In the last year, we saw a 28% increase in the number of downloads of apps, despite the high growth of apps. While yes, if you look at the comparison in terms of growth rate and the number of apps versus the install rate, perhaps it's not totally on par. The competition is growing, but that also means that mobile developers should be looking at, putting down a strong game plan and strategy when building their apps. But the good news is that while there's more competition in the number of apps, users are actually spending more time. Users are more engaged on mobile apps. And this is a key opportunity for you. What we see to date is that about almost 38 hours spent a month in-app, and that's a 63% growth in the past 2 years. Even with the average number of apps remaining the same, the user engagement, or the time spent in apps, has been growing about 20 to 30% year on year. So that's great news, right? More mobile devices, more people connected, cheaper devices, cheaper data plans means that users can afford to spend more time online. Now let's take a look into see what types of apps are people interested in, right? So this was a survey taken where we asked the question, which kind of app would you download first when you first get your phone within the first week? As you see here, games comes out first, right? People don't care too much about other things, checking the weather, reading the news, checking their bank accounts. No, they want to play games first, according to this survey. So now that we've taken a look into the trends of mobile growth, mobile device growth, user engagement growth, right? Let's talk a little bit about what does that mean for you in building an apps business? What does that mean for you in terms of monetization? Well, to be sure, advertising dollars will follow where the consumers are. And you can see here that mobile is definitely the key opportunity. If we take a look at the different bars from the different industries and compare the percent of time spent in those types of media versus the percent of ad spend, we'll see that, well, other than print, for radio, TV, the internet, the bars are typically the same, on par, right? But the largest gap lies in the mobile industry. While people spend lots of time on mobile, ad spend is not yet there, which means that the opportunity is there. In the US, for example, a key market, there's a $25 billion gap between the percent of time spent on media and the percent spent on advertising. Another key question I get, right? Does it work? Does advertising actually work as a monetization solution in that? This is a survey from App Annie. Asked about 3,000 app developers or companies. And they found that almost half of the people that they surveyed are now using in-app ads as a monetization solution. So let's take a further look. To be sure, ads monetization is becoming an integral part of the app's ecosystem, right? Just now, we showed some data that said half of the people surveyed are now shifting towards ads monetization for the apps business. And what we see is that mobile in-app ads is actually set to grow at 3.2% from now until 2018. Currently, in key markets like the US and the UK, already more than 50% of app revenue is coming from ads. And by 2017, we'll see that grow to 62 billion. And by this, I'm talking about both ads and in-app item type of ads. Now, a lot of people might be asking, why is that the case? Where is the growth, right, in in-app advertising coming from? Well, there are a few key trends or a few key factors that are driving this. The first of which is that users today want and expect apps to be free. Does anybody still pay to download their apps in this room? So this data is pretty accurate. Nobody raised their hand, right? Barely 1% of people actually pay to download their apps now. And free apps are usually supported by ads, and this is expected today. The second trend that we see as to why this growth rate is so phenomenal is that ads are evolving, right? We're providing greater user experiences with seamless app integration with native ads, for example, that fit tightly in with the look and feel of your app, richer brand experiences, as well as interactive types of ads. So you can choose to watch video ads, for example, or choose not to when you don't want to. Again, because of this, we'll see that a lot of developers do also ask me, well, do people actually click on those ads, right? To monetize, you actually need to click on those ads. And what we've seen here is that a majority of users in key markets such as Japan, South Korea, the US, China, over half of these users actually do click on these ads. And this is where this growth is coming from. So how does Google play a key role in kind of driving this overall ecosystem, right? Google prioritizes working very closely with all of the app developers and entrepreneurs in the ecosystem. And we have tools to help our developers every step along the way, whether it's in terms of first building and developing the application or growing your user base, and finally, to earn or monetize your app's business. So to give an example, AdMob. AdMob is used by more apps than any other platform to monetize their business. To give a general overview, over 650,000 apps worldwide are using AdMob to monetize their apps each month. In the last 3 years, we've paid over $1 billion to our app developers, and that equates to more than 300 billion ad requests. Just want to give a few examples of some large app developers that have chosen Google as a partner for ads monetization. So you might see some familiar names here, such as Backflip Studios, Pixar, Sega. Okay, so what I want to leave you with today is a few key things. One is that it's an exciting time for us in the mobile apps world. Phenomenal growth, whether it be in mobile devices, in user engagement, in monetization. And two, that ads is actually a very integral part of this ecosystem, and we've seen that it does work. And lastly, that Google stands closely with all developers across all parts of the cycle, whether it's building your application, or whether it's growing your user base, or whether it's monetization. So with that, have fun in building your app, and I hope to speak to you soon. I'll be here for the rest of the day, so I'm happy to take any questions here or offline as well. Thank you.
Please invite to the stage Mrs. Purnima Venkatesh to present a token of appreciation.